landed on something that's really going to help essentially save families at the end of the day. Because I was on the pace of losing it.
Morning, George. Thanks for meeting with me. I was really interested to learn more about your buyback time formula after you shared some of the emotional stories that led you to write it. So, as I was reviewing it myself, I think the one of the moments that as I was reading it that stood out to me was the part where you describe about missing your son's laugh.
Hmm.
And it was like, yeah, I miss some things with my kids too, and if I hear about it later that I missed it, I'm like, that kind of hurts because I'm like, I'm out here trying to be the good dad, working, slaying dragons, and that comes at a cost, right? So
Yeah. No, that's part of our identity. We're the providers, and if we're not working, we're, I don't know, being lazy or not being productive. And so it's kind of that lie we tell ourselves that we got to stay busy, even if it's like sacrificing family moments. So been there, done that.
yeah. So part of the book that's summarizing it's like, if your business isn't setting you free, then you're the constraint. You don't have a business. Being busy isn't a strategy, it's the symptom of a business that's backwards. So, I've worked on building a lot of businesses over 20 years, and I've seen this over and over again. It does seem to be kind of a recurring thing. The hustle of startup and entrepreneurship is glorified, and a lot of people feel like the it's a pipe dream. It's this end of story success story to live what you say can happen, much earlier in the process.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I'm living proof that it can happen. Yeah, I wasn't always that way. And yeah, I briefly go into the very beginning. It's my whole kind of mission in life right now sort of revolves around this, don't miss Leo's games. Leo's my son, and you know, um, I guess I'll kind of go back towards the beginning. So this is like middle school and high school, late 80s, early 90s. And, I played in about 40 games between, all those 6 years, played basketball. And out of those games, my dad only made it to one game out of like 40 possible games. And, he was a good guy. He was a medical doctor, very dedicated to his craft. And kids, as a teenager, like we have this interesting way of coping, and my way of coping with that was my dad's out there making the world a better place, and that's my sacrifices. I'm loaning my dad to the world because he was great at what he did, and I'd hear people rave about how just he's just so nice and compassionate and stuff, and it's almost like, well, don't really see that guy at home much, but I'm glad he's doing it out there. And so that kind of gave me a little, I don't know, peace, I guess you could say. But and going back to the games that he didn't make it to. So I'd score a basket, and then I'd kind of look to the stands, the empty stands, the crickets. And when my friends and teammates would score, I'd see their dads like cheering them on. Here's your water, pat on the back, or drop the ball, get up, step out of bounds. That's okay, son. Get up, do it again next time. And I didn't have that validation or encouragement. And I remember looking at one of my friend's dads, and I remember thinking, man, I wish he was my dad. And that would have completely crushed my dad to hear. It crushes me just thinking about my son ever thinking to say that. And again, my dad wasn't a bad guy, but he was just a provider. He gave us great houses and cars and trips to Europe that we loved every summer. I always had the coolest toys that my friends would sort of envy, and that also became part of my identity. Like, this is what I bring to the table. This is what I bring to the friendship, is cool stuff that you can come over and play with. And but at that moment, that all that didn't matter. What mattered is I don't have my dad here, and I need him, because every son needs the approval of the father. Like, hey, you're doing good. You can do this. Go get it. Or if you fail, hey, just get it. You get up and do it again. And so fast forward about 20 years. This is 10 years ago now, 2015, and he's entering his like 40th year of medical practice. And he gets diagnosed with cancer early on in the year, and he thought he had a nice long run ahead of him. My grandparents, his parents, had just passed away 2 years prior in their mid 90s. It's like, I'll sign up for that. Great, good strong life, and they didn't like deteriorate. Not until the very very end, but they were like still going strong in their mid 90s. And so my dad thought he had a nice run left, but he was diagnosed with cancer. It was an awesome last 6 months. He made his peace with the Lord and all that. But one of the last things he told me was, "Don't miss Leo's games. I missed too many of yours." And I was like, holy cow. Like I thought I'd suppressed that. Like, once I, went to college, became an adult, like didn't even think about that. I was like, that's like history. Like it just didn't even register in my mind until he said it. And I was like, just came right back. And I'm like thinking the empty stands and the wishing another dad moment. And there was like some sweet closure about that. I wasn't even seeking, I wasn't like asking him to like request me to forgive him or even acknowledge it, but he sort of did on his own. And so there was like a sweet closure to that open loop, I guess, that I thought was never to be revisited. Then the other side of that was like, holy cow, I'm my dad all over again. I'm repeating in his footsteps. I'm missing, my son at the time was 10 months. He started kind of walking early and talking or attempts to communicate. And I'm like missing all of these moments. And that conversation essentially was like him revealing his biggest regret in life. And that big regret became my biggest mission in life. Although I didn't know it at the time, it was more like I just need to apply this to me. And so, of course, it's like, cool, great. I'm on board with that. I don't want to miss my kids' games, but I'm working 16-hour days. When am I going to figure this out? And so just keep going on autopilot. My dad passed away, and fast forward 3 years, I'm still just on autopilot, missing games, missing moments, feel terrible about it. But I'm like, who's going to do all the stuff that only I can do if I'm not doing it? Like I'm not missing games because I want to. I'm missing games because like a server's out or an affiliate's complaining or work's just not done yet. And I'm like, you guys like this living, you guys like these trips and these cars. Like I got to maintain this. I'm propping the company up on my back. And I got, 40 people that work for me. So if you can imagine, like the org chart is me, and then there's 40 people right below. Like it's the worst org chart in human history. I didn't know it at the time. And I was really the bottleneck for everything. And I'd scaled my business in 2018 to $20 million that year. Had you told me that years prior, oh my gosh, I made it. Like this is the pinnacle of life here. But I really hated life, even though I had a little money printer that just spit out money like on demand. Everything just kept rolling up to me. I was fearful that the shoe would drop. It's kind of true. The wise philosopher Biggie said, "More money, more problems." It's really more responsibilities, more problems. But so in the middle of that year, I remember calling my friend, who's dear friend, mentor, coach, and I just said, "Man, I can't keep doing this." Like I was thinking, I got to sell this business, shut it down, or sabotage it. I don't know that I said it in that way, but like when your attitude is so diminished and you're like not enjoying it, you're naturally going to sabotage it in some way, shape, or form because our brains like just trying to protect us. And he told me, and it was a 2 hour call, but to boil it down in like a sentence or two, the theme of it was like, you got to quit doing the things you don't like doing and just do the things you like to do and that you're good at. And I'm just like, oh, wow. Yeah, very simple. I don't know why I didn't think of that before. Because my expertise is like building funnels, copywriting, VSLs, conversions, recurring revenue, average order value, day one revenue, media buying, traffic, and all that stuff. Not merchant accounts, customer support, administration, fraud management, and like I had people to do all that, but all the issues like rolled up to me. And in this business, high volume supplement game, it's like your merchant accounts are essentially like your oxygen. You lose that, or you get what's called on the match list. All your merchant accounts go down, and you're like stuck trying to figure out revenue. You got to pay affiliates and traffic, and it's just you got to turn that cash around quickly to really scale things up. And so, yeah, I was like hating life again, printing money, providing an amazing lifestyle, but totally blowing it at home as a result of that, all constantly stressed out. And so, like I said, led to that call, kind of like the SOS call with my mentor. And it took about 3 years, didn't have to take that long, could have taken like under a year. But us entrepreneurs, we have this control, like only I can do it. And it's funny because like now my attitude is like, let's just say I'm 100%, which I'm not really, but let's pretend. And then somebody gets to 80%, like that's good enough. But when you step out of the way, they're going to take that 80 to like 120 and you're still down here and you're like, holy cow, what took so long to do this? One of the things that took me a long time to sort of like be willing to give up was just accounting because, like in the nature of our, business, you're paying traffic vendors who are billing you per sale. And sometimes like there's fraud that sneaks in there and like one mistake and one non-validating could be like a six-figure mistake. So that's one of those, oh my gosh, when's that going to hit us? Also was hit with like $300,000 worth of fraud that just sucked 300 grand out of the company in the matter of a couple of months. And so fast forward to 2021 after implementing the kind of the buyback time formula. The name didn't exist then, but the frameworks, because it wasn't like wishful thinking, there were frameworks in place to put in place, scaled the business more than doubled, just shy of $50 million. And was living semi-retired. Never worked more than 30 hours in a week. Never missed any of my son's games. We homeschool our son, so he travels with us on our crazy adventures, buying Airbnbs and real estate. I taught him how to negotiate real estate at like 8 years old. We're just looking at a property, and I'm like, all right, teachable moment. Son, go tell the realtor, this is the price we want to pay. Leave the furniture in the house because that's going to save $30,000. That dock over there, that's a $50,000 dock. Tell them it stays. So like I'm picking the low hanging fruit stuff that could be the deal maker when you're presenting an offer. And so we got the house and anyway, just an amazing lifestyle. And so fast forward to I guess the last couple of years, I've had a number of friends and peers and just different circles. They don't like communicate, so like I know it's kind of like this authentic I don't know, suggestion or word from them is like, you need to teach this stuff. You need to like share this message with the world. And I'm just like, I don't know. Well, I'm not a teacher. I'm a doer. And like, what do I teach? Like how to travel, how to spend time with your family. Like I was just, something was missing in my mind to like, how do I, make a business out of this? And more importantly, like, how do you help people with it? And then the idea of frameworks over the last 6 months came to play, the whole concept of buying back time. And when you do that, free yourself up from being the bottleneck to, present, family man, present father. And it's like you can buy back your time to do whatever you want. You could be like a 50-year-old single woman who just wants to travel the world and be with your friends and but you're now the bottleneck and you sort of that's your ideal life. And you can do that with these frameworks. But my story resonates more with, the family first, father first perspective, people that, like I often say, it's cash rich, time poor, the me of 10 years ago, founders, entrepreneurs, CEOs, super duper important people in their business, professional term, who realize that they're blowing it at home and don't want to continue doing that. And so these frameworks allow you to do that. And now I help walk men through the process of implementing these frameworks in their business, but we don't stop there. It's like, all right, now you got a family and we got to reconnect with that family. We need to see what's important to them and, games and things that are important to say your wife or your kids, birthdays, graduations, whatnot. Those are non-negotiable moments. Just like when you have a meeting on your calendar, like you move heaven and earth to make that meeting. So you got to do that on the personal side too. Like we got to treat that the same. And so, yeah, that's kind of it, sort of beginning all the way to current day. And now I help walk men through that process. And I feel like I found my purpose in life because I never had anybody say, "Oh, this bottle of pills changed my life. Thank you so much." Made lots of money, and it was an ethical way of selling supplements. There's also an unethical way. Didn't do that. I did the ethical way. But I felt it was lacking purpose. And now I feel, holy cow, I've landed on something that's really going to help essentially save families at the end of the day. Because I was on the pace of losing it, my family. I mean, it wasn't like they were standing at the door about to leave, but I've seen where this movie ends because that's how it ended for my dad. And so, anyway, I know I threw a lot out there at you, but that's kind of the whole thing right there.
Well, I care a lot about this topic because, you mentioned, um, that this urgency, this drive that we have to be providers, but we put all this pressure on ourselves to be a level of provider that we aspire to be, and that ambition is good because it motivates us to be better, but it also can cause us to make costs and sacrifices that we can't recover from.
Mhm.
One of the points I noticed you make here is that you can recover from business setbacks, but you can't replay the childhood for your children, right? You
Yeah.
can bounce back from a business that failed, but you can't recover from, losing your family back because they're estranged from you. It ends in divorce, or your kids don't even know you. You don't even know them. They start to do crazy things to try to get your attention, you know. And
Yeah.
and one of the reasons I care a lot about this actually is because in 2019, three professional colleagues that I knew and had worked with on some level. All of them were good, good married husbands and fathers, just caught up in the hustle, trying to work and provide for their family. And these three gentlemen, spread out throughout the year, they took their own lives. And it's like they were working so hard and chasing all this ambition, and they did not have this perspective on what was most important because they felt like a failure. They were evaluating themselves by, judgment that we feel this pressure on. This war for our time is that, you've got to make money so that you can have time later to be with your family. That's what gets sold to us. And how often does that actually happen? You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't really, it comes at a cost to where even if you had time, nobody wants it from you anymore. Or, you in the time of chasing that dream, the time to be present passes and it doesn't come back, right? So
Yeah. No, that's so true. Like most people, and I'm guilty of this, you're sort of like lamenting the past and you're worried about the future and you're just totally blowing the current moment in front of us right now. And so yeah, that is in my experience not a happy place to be.
so um you've got your book. What would you say is the most important single point takeaway for someone like me from what's in the book? Because I reviewed it, but maybe I missed the big takeaway I should have taken from it?
Yeah, no, there's a lot of different frameworks, and honestly, what I tell people is just apply one of them, and once you start buying back a little bit of your time, you're going to be addicted and want to do this to everything. The only thing I tell people is there's going to be a temptation of once you're sort of freed out of your one business, you're going to try to start another business, and that's okay to do so long as you structure it in a way that maintains and respects the time that you fought so hard to build from your first business. Like I started a land investing business, investing in houses. And so like I've set up a team, I've implemented my own frameworks, I've done SOPs. So yeah, I'd say that the biggest thing is we as founders oftentimes give away our time, which is worth something, to some of the lowest dollar tasks you can imagine. And again, I'm guilty of this, and I still fall into this sometimes. I find myself working on something that somebody for $10 an hour can be doing it, and it's a super important thing. So no disrespect to the lower wage people, they play a valuable role in our business, but myself and like you and other business owners watching and entrepreneurs, like we should be strategizing on how to grow our business with through like strategic partnerships or maybe it's creating a new offer. But we need to be focused on increasing, top line. And then of course, the in between lines as well, optimizing those figures too. But I mean, you need top line so that you can have the rest of those challenges. If there's no top line, then you won't have any business. So but yeah, that's my advice, is to figure out what your time is worth, and then audit what you're doing, and you realize, okay, I'm doing this a lot. If it's like a one-off, fine, you spend more time figuring out how to outsource a one-off than actually doing it. Totally fine with that. But like if it's something you're constantly doing time and time again, then document that, do a Loom video, take the Loom transcript, put it in ChatGPT, say, make me an SOP, have it spit it out, review it, because AI is not perfect, but it'll get you 90% there. Make any little tweaks, put it on a Google Doc, give it to your person and say, here you go, watch it, ask me if any questions. No questions, you're on your own. And that you're done with that until like technology changes or there's a fundamental shift in the process. But otherwise, it's like, I don't need to see that ever again. And that's it. And then, you got some turnover, then, new person comes in and like the SOPs are ready.
What has it meant to you that now that you've got the business side kind of nailed down to where you're free? Like what has changed for you at home outside of business? What has gotten better measurably compared to what it was?
Yeah, just presence with the family. I mean, like you should see the trips that we would take. Like that's one of the things. Like I was a good provider. I was providing, homes and cars and trips, and we'd travel. But my face was stuck in my phone the whole time, like figuring out server crashes in affiliates, conversions are low. Let's bump up let's bump up a couple orders just to, manipulate the conversion rate so they stay excited. Essentially, that's me giving them money so that they stay motivated. That's kind of called a make good in the industry. But yeah, so that was kind of the old way. The new way is like I get on flights and I don't get on Wi-Fi. Like to me, that's a personal, like I've made it. When I get on a plane and I don't care to get on Wi-Fi, life is good. Life was bad when I get on a plane and I'm like, when is the Wi-Fi going to come on? Because like this 8 minutes, till we get in the air is like stressing me out. And then, you got to turn it off in the last, 5 minutes. And you're like, oh my gosh, what's on fire? What's going to blow up the second that I land? And I have some PTSD from a trip. We went to Europe. It was like an 8 hour flight and we're going to Paris. This is like 12 years ago. So Wi-Fi was like hit or miss on planes. So this one didn't have Wi-Fi. And I just remember being so stressed on that flight. Like once we get to Charles de Gaulle in Paris, like what the heck's gonna await me? And I'm trying to get on, and it's like, at the time it's like, international data, it's gonna cost you a gazillion dollars. I don't care. I just need to see what's going on. And Wi-Fi is slow because you're in another country. And yeah, it was just miserable. And the family's like trying to do stuff and plan, and we're in France, and I'm over here stressing out. So and that just bleeds to the family. You think you can sort of isolate that, like I'm in my little bubble doing my thing while they're off enjoying it. But I mean, if you're the father of the family, you're the head of the household, you're the leader. They're obviously going to be like, all right, let's go. We're waiting on you. Or that whole attitude just going to spill over. So yeah, what's life now like now? None of that. Full presence. Went to Germany last year, and yeah, I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's amazing just to like look around and see these beautiful architecture. My family's enjoying it. Like this is stuff that I missed back, again, going to that Paris trip. I'm like, I guess I don't think I even remember seeing the Eiffel Tower. I was just like this the whole time. And so, yeah, that's one example of how it's been different.
Well, you just described my vacations for like the last 20 years right there. And so
Oh man,
that
welcome to the club.
that resonates pretty deeply for myself. So, but thank you for for sharing because it's good to hear that, guys like us, we're not alone in the struggle. The anxiety we feel around the business has a cure, it sounds like.
There's a cure.
It has a cure. And if anybody watching this wants the cure, how should they get it from you?
Yeah, so I have my book. It's free plus shipping. It's 128 pages. It's a heavy book. It's not some flimsy book. Full of frameworks. There's not any fluff. I do have stories that sort of explain the frameworks and why they're important, but there's no like extra fluff to try to fill out the pages. I literally pour out everything I know about this process in that book. There's other books that you buy and they're like you pay $10 for it, and then you're like going through it like, oh, nice, nice. And oh, that I gotta click this link and pay $5,000 for that big ticket thing. That's not what this is. I'm there to help if somebody needs help. And I know that a lot of my cash rich, time poor men, the me of 10 years ago, would have paid anything to accelerate this process. Because, I know in the end, like had I continued, I would have been dumping my whole fortune to get my health back and then trying to, oh, here, compensate for not being there. Here, son, whatever you want the most expensive car. But fortunately, it doesn't have to be that way anymore. But yeah, so buybacktimeformula.com, you can see the book, you can see my socials, you can contact me. And I'm making myself available if anybody wants to speak with me and explore just having somebody hold them accountable. Like a lot of these things, it's like, hey, some of these things are, hey, I'm aware that I need to do this, but I just don't believe it's possible. Or I'm the only one that can do this. And I'm here to tell you, no, you're not the only one that can do that. And once you buy back just a little bit of time, and your family gets a little bit of your time too, like you're going to be hooked, you're going to be addicted. And my thing that I say is let's quit having the iPads and iPhones raise our kids. Let's be present for them and realize that you can have your cake and eat it too. My business doubled, more than doubled when I stepped out of the way because the time that I spent in my business was more, strategic connections, marketing, this high level stuff, not the nitty gritty that just like broke my soul into pieces. And so if you find yourself in that position, get the book. All my knowledge is in there. But if you're like, man, this is great, but I feel like I need more help, then I'm available to help.
Thanks, George.
All right,
Anybody
Tyler.
watching this, get hit up George at georgerivera.com. All right.
Yep.
George is accessible, like you say, he's available on his socials. And you can hear what a successful guy he is. He's really generous to share his time because he has it now, right? So
Absolutely.
living
And,
proof
and I feel like my mission in life
possible.
is to help men now walk through this process.
Living proof the dream is possible, guys. Let's
Yes, sir.
All right. Well, thanks, George, for sharing that. This gave a really like beautiful vignette of how life should be. So thank
Awesome,
you.
Tyler. Appreciate it. This was fun.